US President Donald Trump has declared what he calls an economic D-Day against Iran, promising the most crushing economic operation ever imposed on a country. But there is a fundamental question behind the threat. Can the US actually isolate Iran? Trump is threatening not just Iranian companies, but foreign banks, businesses, airports, government entities, ship registries and financial networks that provide Tehran with what he calls a lifeline. The targets include oil smuggling, cash transfers, exchange houses, swap lines and front companies. But Iran is not starting from zero. Years of US sanctions have already forced Tehran to build an alternative trading system, one that relies heavily on China, neighboring countries, intermediaries and so-called shadow fleets. China is by far the most important piece of the puzzle. Before the war, China accounted for about 90% of Iran's crude exports. While crude oil flows have fallen by a third since then, the value of that relationship is much larger than official custom figures suggest. So Trump's problem is simple yet complicated. You cannot completely isolate Iran unless you can also shut down the channels connecting Iran to its biggest buyers. And that could mean confronting China. That does not mean Trump's strategy cannot hurt Iran. It already has. The Iranian economy is facing an extremely difficult combination of war, sanctions, disrupted energy exports, and currency pressure. The IMF currently projects Iran's economy will contract 5.4% in 2026, and consumer prices are projected to rise by almost 69% this year. Iran's non-oil economy, however, gives Tehran additional channels. Iran's export basket includes natural gas, propane, bitumen, methanol, steel, metals, and petrochemical products. But Iran's trade goes well beyond China. For its non-oil exports, Iran's biggest destinations include China, Iraq, the UAE, Turkey, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and Oman. On the import side, the UAE, China, and Turkey are the biggest suppliers, followed by India, Germany, Russia, and the Netherlands. The UAE has now suspended trade and financial transactions with Iran, a major blow because Dubai has historically been an important commercial and financial gateway for Iranian trade. But that also shows the limits of a simple US versus Iran narrative. Gulf countries are primarily trying to protect their own economies and security. They are not necessarily signing up to every US objective. And this is where the Trump's economic war becomes a domestic political problem. The national average price of regular gasoline is over $4 per gallon. That is more than 25% above a year earlier. California is even more expensive. Diesel is closing on a $7 per gallon mark, roughly 35% higher than a year ago. So Trump's economic war creates a paradox. The harder Washington squeezes Iran and the longer Hormuz remains disrupted, the greater the risk of an energy-driven inflation problem at home. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi dismissed Trump's economic punishment plan, saying it's a diversion from America's own crisis. He pointed to rising debt, interest costs, and fuel prices. He added that America's policies threaten global economy and sovereignty worldwide.